Hey everybody, in this video I want to talk about how to use IK constraints to help control your animations. So here I've got a really simple armature with 4 bones just going vertically. To add our IK constraint, first we want to add an IK target that our chain of bones here is going to try to follow. So I'll extrude a new bone from the top of this. I'll select it. I'll go to my bone properties here, and I'll clear its parent under relations. So our IK target needs to be disconnected from this whole chain of bones that it's going to be controlling. It needs to be actually a separate bone. Lastly, I'll name this bone IK target. It's really helpful to label these bones, especially ones that you're going to be searching for later on. We'll go over to pose mode, and I'll select the last bone in the chain that I want to be affected by the IK system here. I'll go to my bone constraints tab, which you can find here only when you're in pose mode. And then we'll go ahead and add this inverse kinematics constraint. Now I need to set the target, which is going to be the armature, but then I can select a specific bone inside of the armature, and I will use the IK target bone. This is why I decided to name it. Now if I move my IK target, you can see all these other bones try to rotate to face it. And if I get in a little closer, it's going to bend to point here. If you want to adjust the rotation of this thing a little bit, control which way it's bending, you can just rotate one of the bones in this chain to kind of affect how it looks. The other thing I'll point out here is the chain length. So this IK constraint is affecting the entire armature all the way to its root bone. It's going all the way back down to here. You can see that because of this yellow dotted line. That's what that means, is this constraint is affecting everything all the way down to here. If you want, you can increase this chain length constraint. 0 means go all the way to the root, use all the bones. But 1 means just affect that first bone in the chain. I could also do 2 to just affect 2, and 3 would affect 3, and so on. So sometimes when you're building a character, you want to use an IK constraint to control just one limb and not move the whole body around. That's how you can do that. Okay, so I'm going to show a more complex example here. I've got this sort of humanoid armature set up here. It's not perfect, but it'll do for us. And let's go into edit mode and add some IK bones here. So I've already labeled all of these bones. Let's see, I'll turn on the names. So everything is named here. So to control something like an arm that has a hand on the end, or a foot, a leg that has a foot on the end, I don't want to attach this to the hand. I want to go from the wrist here and extrude out my IK bone there. I'll call this hand IKL because this is on the left side, and I'll disconnect it from its parent. I will disconnect it from its parent. There we go. Now I can go to pose mode, add this bone constraint here, the inverse kinematics, and then, oops, I'm adding it to the wrong bone. No, I'm not. I wonder why that was turning orange. It's inverse kinematics. I'll add it, oops, wrong armature. I want this one, and I want my IK constraint. So that's why it's, one of the reasons it's nice to name everything is you can just search this little drop down. Now you can see why I don't want this one IK bone to control this whole armature. It's a little funny. So I'll increase the chain length to just 2. So now this bone controls just this arm. This looks all right already. But I could also get more control over how this arm is bending using the pull target. So I will go back to edit mode. I'll extrude another bone off of here. I'll detach it from its parent. I'll call this one maybe elbow L, and pull it out. So we'll see if this works. So I can set this pole target here. And this should, drive the rotation of this bone based on the position of this elbow bone. So you can see how the elbow is bending based on where I'm moving my elbow bone. I can adjust the rotation of this too using the pole angle. So you'll want to try to get it to do something reasonable, maybe point at the bone like that. So there you go. Now I've got a lot of control over this arm. You can set up all of the limbs the same basic way. You can also symmetrize this. So you set this all up on one side and then repeat it on the other. So I'll go back to edit mode here. I'll delete all those bones and I'll try the symmetrize again. Yeah, so now you can see I've got these controls set up on both sides. Pretty cool.